In this tutorial, we are going to demo how to use the SCM tools, macro files, and project menus to automate our data analysis and modeling workflows. We will continue to use my project 1 for illustration. So, let's open the project that we saved previously. In the previous tutorial, we imported a shipment history data file, then we created new tables as we performed data queries and analytics, and we saved all the tables. We also added those tables to this project's table list. Look at the project file, these are the tables we added to the project. So, all the tables listed here were automatically loaded into SCM when we opened the project. In addition, whenever we open a project, the project startup macro file gets executed automatically. Here's the project startup macro file. And the macro file contains tool execution statements like these. This line executes another macro file, named menu for my project 1.macro, which is to set up the project menu. This block of tool execution statements set up the project menu items, which is why we have the project menus like this, here. We will come back later to show how to set up the project menus as part of the custom configuration of the user interface. From now on, we will be using some specific tools and writing some macro files. Bear in mind, you can always look up the detailed descriptions of the tools and macro programming in the help file. Here is the tools section. Here is the macro programming section. Whenever you have a question, this should be the first place to look for your answer. Now, let's come back to the project menus. We can click here to set the map display visibility flag for a table. Let's first set all tables to invisible, to keep the map clean. Now, let's play with the map display of the point size. We can use this menu to scale the map display size of a point by any one of these columns. Let's try it out. Scale by population. Scale by demand. If you think about it, anytime we click on this menu, it executes a macro file, which contains a sequence of tool execution statement lines, following a predefined logic. But the end result is none other than the changed values of the point size column. Now, suppose we want to change the size data values directly, or manually, without using this menu. How would we do it? To manually execute a tool, we use the tool interface. The tool interface is the place for end users to directly execute SCM tools, on the fly. For demo purpose, we will try to perform all tool executions from here. The tool interface has a built-in feature that keeps a log of all the tool executions that take place here. And, we can designate a specific file to keep the log. Mouse right-click here to name the log file. Let's use this file, myToolStatements.macro. Now, let's say that our objective is to set the point size in proportion to the inbound shipment count to each point. First of all, we need to get the inbound shipment count. Let's use a tool to do a query to get the inbound shipment count by joining the point ID column with the relational shipment tables to ID column. Select the tool. My new points ID joined by my new shipments and to ID, and the output column name will be inbound shipment count. The source column should be to ID. The action is count. Since we have a few more tools to run, let's click on the button Run and Stay, which means to execute the tool and stay with the tool interface for more actions. Next, let's set the point size to be the inbound shipment count divided by 200. Select the tool column set value size inbound shipment count divided by 200. For all records, run and stay. Lastly, we need to refresh the map graphics. Select the tool, Map Draw Graphical Objects. All. Run and exit. Now, the size of a point indicates the inbound shipment volume to the point. The larger the inbound volume, the larger the size of the point. By looking at the map, we have a good idea how the demand volume is spread across the regions. Zoom into a region. Zoom out. Let's look at the new column that we just created here. Inbound shipment count. And the size column here. Now, suppose, for whatever reason, we need to change the size value to, say, 1, for a specific map display. And, after a while, we want the point size to be reset, according to the inbound shipment count. Are we going to repeat the same manual process like we just did? Of course not. That would be too tedious, and we would lose patience very quickly. Here's an easy way. Let's review the log of the tool executions we just performed. Now, all we need to do is compose a macro file with these tool execution statements in it. And then, run the macro file. So, let's compose a macro file. Copy the statements from here. And paste to the new file. Keep the tool execution statements unchanged, and remove the comment lines that we don't need. We now have a complete macro file. Let's save it as set point size by inbound. Now, let's run this macro file. Set point size by inbound. Run. As you can see, the results are exactly the same as before. The only difference is that the manual steps were tedious, and the macro file was just one mouse click. Let's add a tool execution statement to show that this macro does indeed get executed. It's a good idea to use tool interface to compose a tool execution statement. Select the tool. Status bar text. Size by inbound. Copy to clipboard. Paste here. Save the file. So, from now on, whenever we want to display menu points like this, we just run this macro file. Run macro file. Size by inbound. Look at the status bar display at the bottom of the window, size by inbound. Fantastic. Now, let's try something more exciting. Suppose we want to display the point size by the outbound shipment count. Instead of more manual actions, let's modify this macro file for both inbound and outbound. First, let's copy this block of statement lines and paste them down here. For outbound, the join column should be from ID. The output column should be outbound shipment count. For the source data column, use from ID. Again, change this to outbound shipment count. Divided by 5,000. Size by outbound. Now we use the macro arguments value to control the macro execution flow. If macro arguments equals inbound, then else. End if. The indentation has no effect on the macro statement execution, but it makes it more readable. Empty lines are ignored. So, if the macro argument's value is inbound, then this block will be executed. Otherwise, this block will be executed. Let's save this file as set point size by macro arguments dot macro. Let's run the macro file. Set point size by macro arguments inbound. Run. Look here. Size by inbound. Let's run the same macro file for outbound. The macro argument's value is outbound. Run. See here, size by outbound. Great. Let's check out the new columns that we just created. From now on, we can always run the macro files using the toolbar menu, Run Macro File, here. Inbound. Outbound. Notice, each time we still have to manually select the macro file, type the macro argument's value, and run it, which requires a few tedious mouse clicks. To further simplify the workflows, we can add the actions to the project menus, like here. Let's set it up. Menu item setup. Project menu. The position should be 22, to follow the last menu item's position of 21. The caption is, set point size by inbound. And, the macro file is this one. For the macro argument's value, it's inbound. Select an icon image to appear by the side of the menu item. Run and stay. Let's also set it up for the outbound. Menu position, 23. Caption, set point size by outbound. The same macro file. The macro argument's value is outbound. Select a different image file. Run and exit. OK, let's check out the project menus. Here they are. Set point size by inbound, set point size by outbound. Let's click on the inbound menu item. See, size by inbound. Let's look at the size by outbound. Here, size by outbound. Fantastic. So, this is how we set up the project menu items. But, wait, we had to use the tool interface to add the project menu items, and that's a manual process. If we want the project menu items to be set up automatically, we need to add the tool execution statements to the project menu setup macro file. Here, we are back to the project menu setup macro file. So, we need to insert the tool execution statements in here. Let's retrieve the tool execution statements from the log file. Copy. Paste here. Let's insert some comments here for more readability, or as a reminder. A comment must begin with an apostrophe. Everything following the apostrophe on the same line will be ignored by the macro execution. OK, let's save the macro file. Before we execute this macro file, let's clear the project menu. Select the tool. Menu item setup. Project menu. -1 to clear the project menu. None. None. Run and exit. Look here, the project menu is gone. Now we can run the project menu setup macro file. Here we have the project menus with the new menu items we just added. Let's test it out. Inbound. Outbound. Perfect. Alright, by now, you have learned how to run the SCM tools, write and run macro files, and set up project menus to automate workflows. There are many more wonderful features in SCM for you to explore. In fact, there is no limit to what you can accomplish with data analysis and modeling in SCM. Again, you can download the project files once you install the SCM on your computer. And then, you can try it on your own. So, have fun. Thank you.